Immaculate may have been a sandwich, but this movie was a whole meal. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, welcome. It is I, the Dumble, whose door is always open. Gandalf without the gray or the white because I'm all black. Jordy LaForge, Captain of the Enterprise. I am Left Eye Ego. And I am joined today by the woman that's as beautiful as she is patient with me, the Shiro. How are you doing, my love?
I am good. I'm kind of annoyed I don't get a big introduction like you just did.
You're as beautiful as you are patient with me. That does it all.
Doesn't.
You've entertained all of this. Everyone knows that the reason I am this way is in part because of you.
I beg to differ.
What do you mean?
I mean, I feel like you came into this relationship like this.
I was hiding all of it. I was a closet nerd when you met me. You know this. My action figures, all this stuff you see behind me was literally in a closet when she met me. And she was like, bring it out of the closet. And I've just been out of the closet with it ever since, guys. No diddy. No diddy. Guys, I am so excited to review this movie with you guys. In fact, I was begging Shiro the last 2.5 weeks to watch this movie, Late Night with the Devil. I will set the scene for you guys because a week before this, we went to go see Immaculate, which was good, but it was more like a sandwich. I got something that I asked for, and it was okay. But this movie, Late Night with the Devil, was a meal, okay? For those that don't know, me and Shiro love watching horror movies, okay? I do. Particularly, we like Yo Fault supernatural horror, okay? Yes. And what I mean by your fault is you're watching movies like, hey, who told you to take those tarot cards from the witch that said, don't touch my cards? Your fault. Who told you to read the Book of the Dead that says, do not read this, abandon all hope? Your fault. Okay. Who told you to go into the abandoned house where you know spirits might be? Your fault. Okay. Whereas Immaculate was good, it was very grounded, too grounded, and it can happen to anybody. We don't do those movies.
So you said it was a sandwich. I just think it was the bag of chips in the meal. I don't think it was a sandwich.
Okay, that's fair.
That's my personal
That's fair.
opinion.
You know, it just, I will say, it didn't give us everything we were looking for. Yeah. So, you know, I was saying that I wanted to see Late Night with the Devil because I thought it could be more, and boy, was I right. Okay.
And I have to say, this is the first movie where I was wrong and you are right. Usually your picks are duds. But I was really hesitant to see this movie because it just looked slow and boring.
Okay. That's fair.
Out of the gate. You think 70s movie, it's going to kind of be like, I don't know. I just didn't think it would be a bang.
Without further ado, we are going to judge this movie based on the E.G.O statistics. Those are the casting, plot, pacing, and the scare factor. So let's get into it. We actually are going to give you the IMDb movie overview for this, okay, for Late Night with the Devil. So it states a live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living room. So I'll set the stage for you guys. The main character is Jack Delroy, and he hosts a late night television show called Night Owls, right? Mm-hmm. And so he's been hosting this show since 1972, and he's trying to vie for the number one spot of the late night talk show host. He's going up against Johnny Carson,
which we all know,
right?
He was a
King
superstar, yeah.
Right. And so for the 5 years, he's been the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah, and then he slowly started sinking to just the guest.
Right. He was basically coming in second, if not third, fourth, or fifth to Johnny Carson. And so as the years progress, he starts to bring in more controversial guests. You know, like someone that's anti-war versus a Marine veteran, or someone that's anti-disestablishment versus someone that's big business, to try to drum up ratings. So it all culminates in 1977 when it's Sweeps Week. He's 5 years in, he's at the end of his contract, and he's just getting over a family tragedy. So much to the surprise of his co-host in the audience, he decides to come back after 1 month off for his Halloween special. Now, for this, he brings in, I believe it is Christu the Conjurer, who claims to speak with the dead. He brings in illusionist turned skeptic Carmichael the Conjurer and paranormal author June Mitchell, who brings in with her subject Lily Diabu, who was actually she was recovered from a cult, a family cult, I believe.
Yeah, like a satanic organizing cult, a satanic cult, and everybody kind of perished in that cult except for this girl.
Yes.
And she was rescued.
Yeah. And so the movie basically takes place with Jack Delroy interviewing these three people over the entirety of the movie, which is incredibly short. It's like a 90 minutes. It's pretty quick, and it doesn't waste any time getting down to it. Now, I would love to say, hey, he brings all these people and oh, hell breaks loose. But it was not like that at all. It was a slow simmer to a boom. If that makes sense.
I think so, but it wasn't like so slow that you were like, get on with it.
Right.
It was pretty interesting to see, like, oh, where is this going? Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's as most we'll give you is for the overview, but we're going to jump into the ego statistics. So for the casting, we're going to go from 1 to 5 egos. We had David Desmalchian as Jack Delroy, who was the host of Night Owls. We have Laura Gordon, who played June Ross Mitchell, who is the author of the book Late Night with the Devil, or Talking with the Devil. Yeah. We had Ian Bliss, who was Carmichael the Conjurer, who was the skeptic of the film. Faisal Bazi, who played Christu the Conjurer. We had Ingrid Torelli, who played that creepy girl, Lily. And we had Reese Autry, who played Jack Delroy's co-host, Gus McConnell. Honey, for casting for 1 to 5 egos, what are you going to give it?
I would almost say a 4.5.
Yeah.
I thought Lily was spot on. Like, I couldn't imagine anybody else actually doing that. Like, even if I think maybe someone like Dakota Fanning, kind of as she was growing up, maybe. But this girl was spot on. Jack Delroy, spot on. I think he had that TV talk show presence, but also did very well of when he got scared, we could kind of tell. And I even thought the illusionist guy was a perfect kind of like D-bag. Yeah, he was a
foil / D-bag.
Okay. And Krista, he was a minor. That one for me was a little hokey. He was casting-wise a little hokey, kind of this like almost like guru, or that was okay. And the psychologist, the woman, she, I think anyone could have played that part pretty well.
Fair.
She wasn't overly complicated, I didn't think.
Okay.
And then the other reason I give it not full 5 is because I liked the chubby bald guy. Reese. I liked him. But I did think he too was a little hokey.
Okay.
But I guess you needed him for some of the interactions.
I say I give it a 4. And I think the thing with having Christu the Conjurer was he was the canary in the coal mine.
What do you mean?
As in, he was the one that let you know, hey, things really might be off.
Okay.
I might be kind of hokey with what I do, but it's not negating the fact that I might have some attachments to the paranormal.
Right.
And I think that something is off. And that's actually when you start to see it, things might not be wrong. You see it happen to Christu first. So for the plot, honey, what did you give that?
Ooh, it wasn't a surprise. I feel like we knew what was going to happen in a sense that the girl was going to freak us out, and that, of course, she was going to have a spirit or demon in her. I was surprised at how well they made things happen, but didn't make it like chaotic and crazy jump. They didn't go for jump scares.
There weren't a lot of jump scares.
They went for this like almost very complicated sort of reveal that I actually really enjoyed.
Mhm.
And then when the end happened, like there's a part in the end where I'm like, really? Okay, that's enough. But when they ended, it was good.
I will say there's the plot that IMDb gives you, which is on its face a 3. But the plot that you get watched the movie is a 5. I'm telling you this. Because
yeah, I would agree, and I don't,
yeah, and it's because IMDb's plot and the movie's plot seems way too simple for this kind of a complicated and intricate horror type of movie. Because they're telling you, they narrate the movie in the first 6.5 minutes to tell you the stakes of what Jack is going through.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the last year of his contract. He wants to be number one, and he'll stop at nothing to do it. So everything that follows is because of his desire to be number one.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're watching as things unfold, and you're like, this isn't simply absolute madness and mayhem that's happening. It's a descent into madness. And at points of it, you don't know if you're being the subject of a trick or if you're falling prey to the manifestations that are showing while this show is airing. The thing that gets you about this movie is the fact that it's shown from the perspective of it's a TV show that's live. And so when they cut and go to commercial, they're showing you behind the scenes footage. And it's not that janky jiggling the screen, it's black and white cameras. And they'll be like, Jack will be like, yeah, what the hell was that? And Gus is like, dude, we shouldn't be doing this. And Jack is like, hey, we just have to get this through because it's sweep. And you're, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And so that's why I'll say on paper it's a 3, but when you're in the movie theater, it's an absolute 5.
Yes, and I think you hit on one thing. You said it's a descent into madness.
Yes.
And I think that's true on multiple levels because you kind of slowly, the plot gets very complicated almost towards the end.
Yes.
But understandably complicated, but also knowing his history, right? He's technically, given the family tragedy, the organization he was involved in, which I won't go too much into that to ruin it for you guys, but he clearly is on the verge of just trying to survive and doing anything that it will take. And which essentially also causes his descent into madness.
Right. All right. Next thing is pacing. Honey, what do you give pacing for this movie on a scale of 1 to 5 E.G.Os?
I would definitely say a 4.5.
Okay.
It wasn't perfect, but it was, again, way more than I expected after watching the preview because, like I said, going into it, I really didn't want to sit in the theater and watch this. I thought it was going to be slow and kind of like him and Han, but it was really, they kept things moving, and I thought they gave you the story up front, this is why this is happening, and then they gave you the breaks in between the guests on the show to kind of talk about it. So it really kept it moving along. I take away half a star because, like I mentioned, there were a couple parts where I was like, okay, that's enough.
Okay,
keep going.
Okay. I'm not going to lie, honey. I will say the pacing for me was a 5. And I will say this. I'm older now, so if I got to go to the bathroom, I go to the bathroom. All right, I don't care. Just text me what happened. I will say this movie I was upset that I had to go to the bathroom, okay? Who told me to drink that 2-liter before we went to the bathroom, okay? That was my fault. That was E.G.O's fault. So I'm racing to the bathroom to come right back to figure out what I've missed because I didn't want to miss anything. Not even when they cut to commercial and they were doing the behind the scenes stuff. I didn't want to miss, that statement or when they did a lot of flickers. Like the camera would flicker at certain points. And the thing is, me with my one eye, I'm like, did you see that? She's like, yes, honey, I saw it with my 2 eyes. I'm like, great. And then I'm like, it happened again. And so I didn't want to miss that by going to the bathroom. So the pacing for me kept me on the edge of my seat because I didn't know what was going to happen next. And because I knew going in, it's only 90 minutes, I didn't want to miss a single thing. So the pacing for me was a 5.
But the cool thing about that flicker, I don't know if you caught this, but you were seeing it and hey, did you see that? Well, when they were cutting to commercial and stuff, someone was calling down to the cameraman. I was like, hey, something's going on with the camera.
Oh,
And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing's happening.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if you caught that, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't catch. So so it's like you as the viewer that's watching this on TV in 1977 is seeing the flickers, but people that are recording it live don't see it. So you're actually, you feel really a part of the movie, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So in terms of the scare factor, I will say this. There's scare factor, and then She-Ra, and I don't know if you guys do this, but we have the factor, okay? And by that I mean when you see something, we'll look at something like, I said we did not less than 4 times watch this movie.
Yeah.
And guys, again, I don't hear or see so well. And I went to a Regal movie theater. And the great thing about Regal movie theaters, you get the closed caption glasses. All right? I took them off. I didn't want any hints about what was coming next. Hearing it be damned. Okay? If I didn't hear it right, I'm going to ask again, what had happened? I didn't want the next word to show up before it happened. And so I will say the scare factor might have been maybe a 3, but just how intense it was to me was a 5. It was extremely intense, and I couldn't wait to figure out what was going to happen next. Like, did that callback from the first 10 minutes of the movie, did it see a payoff? And they let you know anything they told you about in the first 6.5 minutes that they narrated, boom, paid off towards the end. So everything that you realize people have done to get them to this point is coming back to them by the end of this television broadcast. So again, scare factor might have been the 3, but because of how eerie and intense it was, I'm gonna have to bump it up to a 5 in that regard.
Yeah, I would say it wasn't scary.
It wasn't scary per se, no.
But it was shocking. And it kept you wanting more. And they didn't go for cheap jump scares.
Right.
Which I appreciated.
Yes. It respected our intelligence as a viewer. Yes.
So, I mean, if you're legitimately asking me, was it scary? No, I'd stay at a 3 in the fact that it was creepy and intense, but not scary.
Yes. I will say that, I think this and the movie Talk to Me are where horror films need to go from here on out. Talk to Me.
That had a lot of jump scares, right?
It did, but it was more like it was trying to be forward thinking in the fact that it's trying to address what a horror movie would be like for Gen Z, which everything's digital. And I think that with everything headed towards CGI, jump scares and things like that, Late Night with the Devil was more analog than digital.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
And it worked well within the framework of, hey, it's 1977. We're not using a lot of technology, but anything can happen, and we're giving you that found footage feel.
Yeah.
So I will say, all in all, this might be for us horror movie of the year.
I really did enjoy it, but I don't know, that Abigail movie is coming, and I am all about that.
She loves her vampire movies. So guys, that just lets you know that the next review for a horror movie coming up is going to be Abigail, which drops in about a little over 2 weeks.
Closing remarks: don't let the old-timey feel of the movie deter you like it almost did me. It is a top tier movie, and we don't say that very often. And we give all of the horror movies a shot.
Guys, but for my lovely wife She-Ra, who is as beautiful as she is patient with me, I am Left Eye E.G.O, guys, and we are out.